My name is Randy Deneen. I am Assistant Director in the Center for Career and Professional Success on the Industry Connections team. So with the coffee chats, for those of you that are on the call, we just try to have informal conversations with some of our recruiters and then our distinguished alumni as well. So very honored today to have Mark Cherney with us. So I'm not going to talk for too much longer here, but basically what we do is we just have our alumni talk about themselves, their time at Ohio State, and then their career path as well. And then we just open this up into really an informal discussion. So students on the call be thinking about questions that you can ask Mark after he's done kind of with his intro piece. You can turn your mic on, you can turn your camera on to interact. You can also drop a question into the chat box and I can monitor that for everyone. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mark. So welcome, Mark.
Well, good morning, Randy, and thank you for that nice introduction. I'll make a couple of comments and give everybody an opportunity to, ask questions, make commentary. And there's many ways I could take this hour time with you all. I enjoy mentoring young professionals. I've been doing a lot of that for a number of years. So this is a great opportunity to me to throw out some pearls of wisdom, share with you some of my experiences, maybe spend some time talking about, the market today. I guess some of you all will be graduating pretty soon, or if not, at least starting to make some, serious plans and, thoughts towards how you intend to pursue whatever you're likely to pursue, whether it's, continuation of school for a professional degree, whether it's in medicine or engineering or law or dentistry, or just, something else, business, something that I've been attuned to for a number of decades. Just by background, I graduated in 1974, so that makes me, I think, 28 years old today. If my math is right. It was a long time ago. What is that? 45 plus. My career is now, I'm in my 45th year of business. I pretty much went to Ohio State working from childhood. So I knew early on in my life that I was probably going to end up in some role or capacity of business. And I mean, going way, way, way back, I carried newspapers for the Washington Post, and at the age of 8 and 10, I was a lifeguard, did a lot of different jobs, ended up having to pay my way pretty much through school. My parents were able to afford a little bit. The rest of it I was able to secure on my own. So by the time I got to Ohio State, I knew for sure I wanted to be in business, but I just didn't know what it was specifically I wanted to do, or where I was going to get my start. But it was kind of an interesting story. So I graduated with a degree in political science, kind of minored, in business, but it was more on the job type business as opposed to the academic side of it. And I had numerous jobs here in Columbus. I'm originally from Washington, D.C., came here really almost as a lark. My father went to what is now Case Reserve. It was Western Reserve. He was a pharmacist, and I was actually going to Cleveland to interview. And I decided, I'm going to take a drive down 71 to Columbus and check it out. And I fell in love with the place right away. I knew this is where I wanted to be. And of course, my parents couldn't understand why, if I didn't go to Case where my father went, why wouldn't I just go to the University of Maryland where we lived? And, I was fairly mature for my age. I'd already served in the US military and the Coast Guard Reserve. So I came here, with a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. I avoided going to Vietnam. I really knew that I wanted to get in business, and I was very focused on that. So although I really enjoyed my academic experience and my social experience at Ohio State, I really was highly motivated to get out of there quickly because I didn't have the money to go to school for 4 years. So I actually graduated three and a quarter years. I was only at Ohio State for 2.5. I had 1 year at a junior college in Maryland. So I got out of here when most of my friends and colleagues still had at least a half a year to a full year and a half of school. But one of the last jobs I had, I was working for a pharmaceutical distribution company, basically a company that buys the supplies from the manufacturers like Lilly and Pfizer and others, and then resells it to the to the pharmacies and physician offices and hospitals and such. And befriended the CEO, learned a lot about the business. He offered me a job to be kind of like his special assistant right out of school. And literally, it wasn't more than 2 weeks. It might have been the week before graduation. He called me in his office and said, "Hey, Mark, got some bad news. The company, we're selling the company, and the company still exists here, which is kind of interesting. And we're actually a customer of it. And I'll talk about that in a bit. But it was called Capital Drug. I think it was right off the 71 or something. And he said, I gotta call back the job offer because I'm going to be leaving, and the new owners don't know you and they really don't want to hire you. So here I am, like a week or two to go. And as it turns out, I found basically a similar type business in Washington, D.C. And they helped me in that process. They gave me a great recommendation. And so I literally started my career in the same career path, same direction, but instead of Columbus, Ohio, I was in Washington, D.C. And so healthcare it was. Had no idea that that's where I would land. I was open to almost anything. In the mid 70s, the economy was really a mess. Inflation was extraordinary. I mean, interest rates were way double digit, 12, 13, 14%. In fact, I bought my first house, and my first mortgage was at 14%. My second, which I had to have because I didn't have enough money, was at 12. And so if you did the math, what basically allowed me to buy a house for $100,000, maybe $120,000 today would be $1 million home today, just based on the principal. So it was pretty tough, literally everything. And I didn't make much money. I will tell you, I could have made more money flipping hamburgers at McDonald's than I got in my first job. My first job paid me $8,000. And I said, why did I go to school? Why did I do all this work to make so little money? But that was the state of the economy. And I knew pretty quickly, I got a pretty hard wake-up call that if I was going to make it, if I was going to, achieve success, however success was defined, I was going to have to do it the hard way. And so probably it was the best thing that ever happened in my life to be, given the opportunity to go to a great school, come out with a degree, with very little direction, very little support. We didn't have these types of programs. I'm not even sure at the time if Ohio State did have a type academic career type center. I didn't know about it. I'm not sure they had one. I probably would have found it, but I was so busy working. But it created the motivation and the fire and the belly, and really created what I thought was, my attribute to success, which is, perseverance, passion, and persistence, and never accepting the word no. And so here I am 45 years later, I'm on literally the back nine of my career. This will probably be the last deal I do. I'm doing it because I'm very passionate about what we're doing here in Columbus. Just by background, I'm the CEO, Chief Executive Officer for a urology practice management company. In Columbus, it's called Central Ohio Urology. We have two big competitors here, maybe three. Ohio State being one, and we know Dr. Cheryl Lee in the department. She's your department chairman of urology. The next big group would be Ohio Health, which you see, that's where Riverside Methodist is, and then the Mount Carmel system. So we're an independent group of urologists. We take care of men and women. Obviously, we take care of a lot of men's urologic and a lot of women's urologic issues. So we treat prostate disease, bladder disease, kidney stones. We get into sexual medicine. As you get older, your biologic system will change dramatically. Men's testosterone levels will come down and they'll develop BPH. But we are what I call a classic full service, multi-talented, specialized group of urologists. And the reason I ended up coming to Columbus. My primary home is actually Nashville, Tennessee. We have a home here in Worthington, and was to build this vision that I've had for probably 10 years. And when I developed the business plan for it in 2010, there really wasn't much in the way of interest. There really wasn't much in the way of a need for it, but it was a vision that I had for where this practice of urology was going to go, or where it was headed. And so in 2013, I kind of dusted off that plan, and it kind of fits into the whole thing of persistence and passion. And there was more of an interest or an appetite by physicians to look at this and investors to look at it, still a little early. And then in 2015, I found some interested parties. And so long story short, I put together a group of investors and myself to make this strategic partnership with Kook, Central High Urology. And we closed on it two Decembers ago. So coming up on 2 years. I've been with this practice for 3 as interim CEO and chairman until we got it kicked off. And now we've expanded. The new parent company's name is US Urology Partners, and all this is on LinkedIn or on the web. You can check out our websites. And so we're literally at the doorstep of pulling together other urology groups from around the country. Can't tell you exactly who or where because of confidential related issues, but we're going to be, we'll be in the Northeast, we're going to be in the South and Southeast and Mid-Atlantic. And my goal is to build a multi-$100 million business, multi, as in maybe upwards of $500 million. And we started at a much smaller size. And so I was afforded this opportunity as a result of really a lot of hard work, a lot of perseverance, and a lot of studying, because I could not do what I'm doing now without 45 years of experience. I didn't get but a little piece of that knowledge from Ohio State, and it's no fault of Ohio State. You go to Ohio State or you go to any 4-year school, and you're there to learn a craft or learn a particular subject matter. But I believe this, and this is really important from a kind of a takeaway perspective. No matter how well you do there, no matter how much you learn there, you're not really going to put a dent in your knowledge base until you graduate and start your career. And let me tell you, on the front end of my career, for probably the first 10 years, I struggled, I stubbed my toe, I had lots of mistakes, lots of failures. And so I learned early on that was okay. In fact, I encourage our teams of executives and managers and directors and employees to take risks, to take chances. I don't care if you make mistakes. Try not to make the same one multiple times. Got to learn from our experiences and our mistakes. But I really went to school. I probably did more reading and more self-education and more study post-graduation than I did while I was in school, because I had the challenge of not only getting through school, but I had to work to generate income to pay for my housing and tuition and stuff. And that all worked out. So look, we're all different. We're for sure all built differently. But if I had to do it all over again, and in fact, my favorite line is, boy, I wish I were 28 or 29 or 39, because what I know now about business compared to what I knew at those increments of age and experience is light years. It's just wildly beyond. I never thought in a million years I would know what I know today. I never had the capacity to think like that. And so, I've been blessed and fortunate that I've had a lot of great experiences. Number two, maybe more important than number one, I've had great mentors. I would encourage anyone and everyone, whether it's in your first job or your second or third, find mentors, reach out to people in the organization that you can kind of hook your star to, that you can learn from. And you can ask questions and you can say, hey, God, I really messed this thing up. I really did something bad, or I screwed this up. And some of you can talk to and have a friend-to-friend conversation with maybe how you might process that or deal with that differently in the future. And so I was blessed. I had a great mentor in a couple of years out of school. Unfortunately, he passed at a very young age. I had my next best mentor came, call it 4 years later. Another one a couple of years later. I probably have had 4 to 6 really fantastic mentors. And so I feel like part of the benefit that I got, I have a need to want to be able to repay. I can't repay those folks necessarily, but I can repay and make a tribute by helping others. So if you come away with anything of substance today, it's you ultimately are going to control your destiny. You alone are going to decide, what works well and what doesn't. And I would encourage all of you or any of you to pursue your passion, pursue it with the ultimate of energy and vigor, and don't worry about making mistakes, and don't worry about having failures, because everybody messes up. The success stories come from those that have those negative experiences, and they're not really negative experiences, they're just kind of learning experiences. And I will tell you without any reservation, I've learned more from my failures and my setbacks and mistakes than I have from my successes. The successes are fun, they're glorious, but they only last a short period of time. It's kind of like in sports, you work your butt off to do something really well. I'm sure the Ohio State Buckeye football team is just itching to get back to the national championship, and they probably will. And I will predict they win, because it's embedded in their DNA. And if you can get to that in life, then it's going to be fun. You'll have more fun than not. But the challenges that people have, I've got two relatively young daughters. Now I'm a grandparent, and so I'm watching my grandkids, are just glued to their iPads, and they're so much smarter. They're so much further ahead than I was when I was 21 in relative terms. I mean, these kids are going to be exceptionally gifted and successful and whatever. But I will tell you some of the things that really kind of get under my skin. We do a lot of, internships. In fact, last year and the year before, I bet you we had at least a half a dozen interns from Ohio State. So one of my former partners is a physician. His son's he graduated last year. He's now up at Cleveland in dental school. And so Eric, his name was Eric Prescott. I said, Eric, I need some kids that really want to learn business. They'll work their butt off for us. We'll pay them really good money. They're going to learn a ton, and they'll get great experience, and they'll have some fun hanging around some smart people. That was one of the best decisions I made. We got a lot. We had at one point, I think we had 4 or 5 interns from Ohio State, and it keeps the place young, right? And everyone, they got a clip in their gate, and but the thing that was really difficult, and we still experience it, is today's generation does not have the same DNA. They don't have the same motivation when it comes to seeking employment. I mean, I've never heard of people not showing up for interviews. If you did that in my day, you got blacklisted. You wouldn't be invited back. But it just blows me away. We have people that either don't show up for an interview, or worse yet, we give them a job, we make them a job offer, they accept it, and they don't show up for the first day of work. And so I ask people, what's going on here? Why is that happening? Makes no sense. Well, a lot of it's the way kids are raised, the way the parents, placate them. I don't know, but make sure whatever you do, don't do that, right? Make sure you send thank you notes from interviews if it's important to you. If it's not, then do what you want to do. But I would say, write really nice personalized thank you notes. Don't send emails. Be responsive. Somebody calls you up and says, hey, we got an interview slot for you. Either say, no, I'm not interested, or show up. And then if you happen to get a job offer, make sure you accept it and then show up for work. Now, hopefully none of the people on this call maybe even feel slighted that I would even say this, but this is a pervasive problem in our country today. It's not an Ohio thing. It's not a Nashville, Tennessee thing. I hear these stories where people just get up and walk out the office and say, yeah, I'm kind of bored of this place. I don't think I want to work here anymore. Give your employer notice. If it's not working out and you don't think there's a chance that it can get fixed or resolved or turned around, then at least afford your employer the opportunity to fix it, or just say, this just isn't good for me. I need to go find another job, look for something else to do. And if you did that to me, I would say, great, what can I do to help? Can I sign a reference letter? Can I make a phone call on your behalf? Happy to do that. Happy to do that. So look, I can ramble on. I've already talked for almost 30 minutes here. You guys have any thoughts or questions? Happy to answer them. If you want to check out kind of my career path, just go to Mark Cherney on LinkedIn. If you want to network, I'm happy to put you in my network. I have a lot of people out there. If you have an interest in going into business or even more so healthcare, and you have a particular, I'm happy to point ideas out or thoughts out. Consider me a nice reference for kicking around. But your parents, I'm sure, help you a lot in that regard.
Thanks, Mark. So students or anyone on the call, if you have questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question or drop it in the chat box. I'm happy to keep an eye on that. I'll ask the first question, Mark, just because maybe others are thinking about a question. So when you were in school, here at OSU, political science major, and then you ended up in healthcare, what was sort of the learning curve going from political science into the healthcare industry, which, isn't necessarily what I would see as maybe like a smooth transition? Yeah,
there was like no transition. It was it was a do-over. I started all over. The reason I went into political science, I actually thought about either going into politics or law. Growing up in Washington, D.C., I was at ground zero during Watergate. I had a lot of really interesting, experiences. Met a lot of famous people along the way, but it just wasn't what I wanted. And I was fortunate. I was in the armed forces, so I got to see the military side of government, and just felt like there's better uses of what, and I had other needs. One was financial. I knew I could make a fortune, I guess, in law, but I just felt like business was where I needed to be. And it probably as a result of, I did have a lot of jobs. I worked at Safeway, so, I bagged groceries. I was a cashier. I did everything in the grocery store. I worked in retail drugs. I told you I carried newspapers. I managed swimming pools, was lifeguard. So I did a lot. In Columbus, I worked for Sears. I worked for this drug wholesale company. And I like numbers, and I like revenue and how businesses ran. And I just felt naturally it was the right fit. So the challenges early on in my career were really as a result of just not having the highest level of knowledge in actually operating a business. But I got that relatively fast because people put me in pretty important roles early on. I was 26 and I was managing a company in New York, in Queens, New York. And I was managing people 40, 50, 60 years old. And so I guess I had the social maturity, and the business came as a result of, again, having the right mentors, and I sought out the right people. And I did, as I mentioned, I spent a lot of time studying at night, reading. I read a lot of annual reports. I was a feverish read of Fortune magazine and Forbes magazine. So I used to try to model myself after successful people. Like, why is Warren Buffett or Steve Jobs or Bill Gates, right? Why are they successful? And I just went to school on what was different about them. Not to try to, never thought I could emulate them, because we're all different, right? But I did feel like I can learn from them, and their early formative years were not too dissimilar to mine. I mean, Warren Buffett is one of the richest men. He used to be the richest man in the world. Is probably top 10. You know, all the big tech companies have overtaken him, but you know, he delivered newspapers. He came from a very modest life. He's still living in the same home that he did as a kid, right? But he was smart. He was surrounded, and that was the other key thing I learned early on. This is really important. Surround yourself with really smart people, maybe even smarter than you. Don't hire I call them yes men or yes women. If you hire people that just match you up, you're picking the wrong people. The people you want to pick are pick people for key jobs that have skill sets that you don't have. If you're in a room full of executives or a room full of managers or employees even, and everybody's nodding their head yes, then you made the wrong decision. You want people around you that are going to challenge you. I may disagree with them, vice versa, but we're going to get the best out of it. And that took a few years for me to learn that skill, because you got to be a pretty strong mind and personality. You can't have an ego. You can't have an ego in business. You know, you can be smart, you can be aggressive, you can be assertive, you can be confident, but park your ego at the door. Nobody's really interested in watching somebody trying to emulate they're the smartest person in the room. That is a death knell, and not just in business, but I think in every walk of life. Even if you know you're smart, arrogance is not a tribute. That's a big negative. So I know I didn't completely answer your question, but yeah, every thing that I've done in my career has always been a significant leap up in terms of work, in terms of knowledge. I mean, I've taken a lot of jobs. I would venture to say almost every single job I've ever taken, I didn't know what I was going into. I mean, I knew what I was going into in basic terms, but I didn't know the subject matter necessarily. I may have known parts of it because I was always trying to grow, and you can't grow by maintaining the status quo. You gotta take risks. You gotta take chances. And because I did that, again, I still made mistakes, but I had more successes than failures, and I learned. And then I minimized those mistakes and such in the future, and I became more polished. I mean, I'd never thought I'd be where I'm at this stage in my life. Never thought it in a million years. I couldn't even think in these terms. You know, my goal in life was be a sales manager, make $50,000 a year, have a family. I just didn't have it. And then all of a sudden, because I chose a different life. I saw success, and I said, wow. And probably the best story I can tell you, one of the best, I got a bunch of them, but the best one is I was working in Long Beach, California. I was in the home care business. I just got promoted. I was 26, just got promoted to like assistant general manager of this business. And my boss took us to Mexico for a weekend at their place. Beautiful resort south of Tijuana. And so Saturday morning, we got up, met some of their friends, and this guy. We go to their friend's house, and it's right on the Pacific Ocean, big blue sea. I mean, it's gorgeous. Little modest house. The owner shows up. He's wearing denim denim shirt, denim pants, boots. I mean, he's a cowboy. And I can't remember his name, but I asked him, I said, so how did you do this? And I was expecting to hear some like wildly, success story. He said, Mark, he said, and this is kind of where I kind of learned about perseverance and persistence. He said, never accept no, set your vision high and long, and don't ever quit. Make them drag you out. Make them drag you out. And you can have this. And Rosarito Beach, Mexico, that's where we were. Look it up. They filmed many a movie there. And I said, wow, It's that simple. Just work hard. I could do that, right? Just stay focused. I can do that at 26. And that was, for me, that was a watershed event in my life. And then, you know, I'm talking to you guys. So that's success too. That's even more success than the material successes that we've achieved. But
so
go ahead.
I was going to say, Jocelyn asked a question in the chat, and I think you touched on some of this, but an interesting part of it that she asked was there a particular class at Ohio State that maybe helped you, kind of gain a better sense for what you wanted to do, or even, you took a class and you said, oh, that's definitely not for me, but it helped kind of shape what you did after school?
Yeah, boy, I'd have to really think about that. There was a guy, I can't remember his name, but I had a philosophy course. And I remember the teacher, the professor was Latin. And I think he, in his own right, had some connections with some famous leader in South America. And the philosophy that he taught really opened my eyes a lot. More spiritual, more emotional. But I think beyond that, I enjoyed what I learned. But again, from a business perspective, it was very little in the way. My political science, I would never, knowing what I know today, that was the mistake. There was, I should have been focused on economics and business, and it may have accelerated my career. I'm not sure in the end it would have made a difference. I will tell you this story. I got a lot of stories. I worked for a very famous guy. Unfortunately, he passed. Seems like a lot of people I work with passed away, but he was my boss at Baxter. And if anyone knows healthcare, Baxter is one of the preeminent healthcare manufacturers in the world. And our division was called Highland Therapeutics, and we produced blood derivatives for the treatment of hemophilia. And in fact, I was at ground zero when AIDS broke out in 1981. We almost had to shut the company down because the blood supply, the plasma supply in the United States was tainted with AIDS. And you have to go back and do some reading that was pretty gut wrenching. But my boss's name was Henry. He was a Frenchman. He was Dutch, actually. And everybody in our everybody on the management team, with one exception, and that was me, had an MBA. Everybody had an MBA, either from Harvard or Chicago or Northwestern or Stanford or some big name school. Then Ohio State didn't have the pedigree that it has today in its B school. And I kept saying, Henry, I feel like an idiot in these meetings. Everybody's talking here, and I'm in elementary school, and everybody here is in college when it came to the vernacular, the terminology. They were the kids they hired, I call them kids, but those that had MBAs were more strategic. I was really the only guy in the room that understood revenue, understood sales. And that's why he said, Mark, I don't want you going back to get an MBA. You don't need an MBA. You just need to understand what we're talking about. And then you need to help us learn, figure out how to sell these goods. And so it took me a while to overcome that. I mean, for many years, I was very insecure. So that would have been, call it, I was kind of 28 to 36. So for about, 6, 7, 8 years, I felt really insecure, because then I went to Silicon Valley, had an opportunity to interview with Apple to be their VP of marketing. I said, there's no way I'm going to go interview with Steve Jobs. He'll eat me for lunch. And I didn't. And that probably was a mistake too. I should have at least gone for the interview. But it was called confidence. And it was Mark lacks confidence. I didn't have the confidence. And so that got in my way. And then I finally got confidence, and I was doing things that the guys and gals with MBAs were doing. Look, we all have, different horses to ride on. Mine was a fast and furious horse. And believe me, I got thrown off that horse many a time, but I never got thrown out so badly that I wouldn't get back on it. And that was really important, I think. You know, I'm telling you, you're all going to have mistakes. You're all going to make errors. Don't worry about it. Shit happens, right? You learn from it, go to school on it, figure out what you did wrong. Try not to make the same one again. You may make the same one again, but don't worry about it. Figure it out. Study, go seek help, guidance, support, and you're going to do just fine. I'll take somebody, you know, I love military guys. They're so organized, they're disciplined, they're hardworking, they're loyal. They'll do anything. I love hiring, you know, kids, whether they come from the military or they don't. I don't really care. I just want hardworking. Ethics is critical. Highly ethical. You don't even need to be loyal. You just need to be ethical. Full transparency. They don't teach this in school, guys, right? You get this in real time. I've got investors that are backing me with hundreds of millions of dollars because they trust me. They know I'm not going to screw them. They know I'm not going to take them down the wrong path. They know I'm not going to go off and do something illicit. They know there's probably a pretty good chance we'll be successful. We may not, but probably more likely to be than not. And it, you know, it took time to build that type of credibility. So what else you got?
Yeah, well, other questions that anyone has for Mark?
I see Mohammed just showed up. What's on your plate today?
A few things. So the US Urology Partners, that's the one you came to Columbus to start?
Yeah, it is.
So that was from scratch?
Yes, that's a startup, but it was manifested as a result of Central Ohio Urology. So Central Ohio Urology was the platform. And then I had this vision and strategy. The investors said, let's do it. And so as we continue to build the company, I can't tell you who or where, but we have other urology groups that are going to become part of US Urology. So COOG, or Central Ohio, will be one of several platform companies in US Urology.
That's amazing. Do you have any future plans to do something like this for like family medicine?
I don't. Others have done it. In fact, our investor group had a big success story in family practice. But there are, I will tell you, the biggest. You're actually, if you have an interest in primary care, we call it primary care medicine or family practice. Probably one of the biggest groups, successful groups, is right here in town. It's called COPC, Columbus, Ohio Primary Care. They're one of our biggest customers. They refer a lot of patients to us. So if you have any interest in getting into family practice, you've got a great network here.
So I think like one of me and many other students at OSU, their problem is like, how do you decide what to go into after undergrad? Because there are so many options, especially coming to OSU, where I mean every other door is an opportunity basically. Yeah. So it's like, where do I invest my skills into, and then what can I do with that? When you have all of these other general, like, would you be more specific with one thing, or do you want to go more general? So
great question. And if you were my son or brother, I would say whatever. Here's what I would say. Find what interests you, where you think you get really excited and passionate, and then to go test drive it. Go even offer to be an intern for free. Usually the internships, they'll pay you a decent wage, but get some real-time experience. Try it out. So here's an example. We had an intern, Isaac. I don't want to say his last name, but Isaac interned for us. He's from campus. He's from Ohio State. He worked for me, and then I moved him over to finance because he thought he wanted a career in finance. And then we moved him around some other special projects. Well, I just happened to talk to him literally a couple of weeks ago. I said, "What are you up to?" Because I didn't offer him a job out of school. And he said, "Mark, I got a fantastic opportunity. I'm going to San Diego, and I'm going to do an internship. It's almost like a industry forum, and he's going to learn specifically how to sell and market orthopedic products because he's a sports medicine junkie. He always likes sports medicine." And I told him, I said, "Why don't you go look for an opportunity? Although those are really tough, they're very coveted jobs in orthopedic sales. They make big money, I mean, if you're hungry and money motivated, those guys make, I say guys, I'm talking guys and gals all the time. And so he's going to do this like 3-month thing. And so I don't know about the economics and how they pay him or what. He's got a friend who's going to put him up, but he should come out of that in really great shape. And if not, even if he doesn't get a job offer, he'll at least get a much deeper appreciation and knowledge for the, the sector, the space. And then, he can go look elsewhere. But I would say, especially if you don't know what it is you want to do. And in fact, when I first hired him, he told me, I don't really know what I want to do. I said, well, come here. We'll teach you. We'll give you a lot of exposure. And then, what comes of it is going to be really a function of what you put into it. So it doesn't surprise me to hear that question. But if you want to find the answer, you're going to have to, it's called spade work. Got to get a shovel out and start digging.
Yeah.
And just kick a lot of tires, right? And by the way, even if you pick the wrong tire,
Yeah.
there's plenty of tires out there. Just go find another tire.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem. How about you, Jocelyn? Oh, you already asked your question. You don't need to wear that mask while you're talking to me, but if you're going to wear one, I'm going to wear one. Or you got people, unless you got people in the room.
Yeah, I was gonna say students on campus are being asked to wear a mask basically no matter where you are, inside,
Really?
outside,
Oh, my.
anything. So yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. Our policy is you have to wear a mask, but my door's closed. I'm in my office. So, but as soon as somebody walks in, I put it on.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I'm out in a public space, so just in case anybody walks by.
So I lived in Lincoln Tower my first year, 16th floor. Started out, there were 4 pods, right? And there's 16 of us. And I think by the time spring semester concluded, there were 4 of us. So we each had our own quad, right? And then where did I live? I lived on 14th in an apartment building. And I think I lived on 15th or 16th. And then
I had another question if you got time.
Yeah, go for it.
How is technology, like the advancement of it, shaping the future of the startup business that you're working on?
It's everything.
Mm.
It's everything. It's really, there's some really cool stuff going on. Again, like I said, you weren't on the call, I'm 69. I wish I were 39 because the future is unbelievably bright. There's so much cool. I mean, look at this. So a year ago, there was no Zoom or Teams. The way we conduct business, right? The analytics, supply side analytics, supply side management, technology for managing patient care. This is going to be really big. Telemedicine. I've been harping telemedicine for years, but we didn't have this platform. Now that we do, think about it, how many patients, more patients we can see. Mental health is prime for telemedicine. A lot of people don't want to go, they're embarrassed, they feel awkward, they don't want to go see a doctor, but they're more comfortable talking to a doctor or provider, over television, over a laptop. So telemedicine is going to be big. Genetics and genomics. I'm actually in the process of incubating another company that is going to be really cool. So we're looking at genomics and genetics for the treatment of prostate cancer. So there's just so much. I do think this. I think the smart guys, the Googles. I think my daughter just left Fitbit. You probably have heard of Fitbit.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was head of sales on the West Coast. She got recruited, and they're being acquired by Google. She got recruited by a company in San Francisco called Clio, and so she's vice president national account. She's got a really, really cool job. It's all women. It's a female managed company. I think there might be one guy. It's kind of interesting, but all the women in leadership and on the board come with technology, right? Being San Francisco and Silicon Valley. So I think we will start to see more and more tech companies involved with healthcare, the provision of healthcare services, more so than ever. So if you got a tech interest, if you got a tech background or an interest, that's another way to come into healthcare. There's not enough talent. We're spending a lot of money in IT and IS, information services and information technology. I just met with my CIO, Chief Information Officer, and that what his knowledge base is. If I say, hey, Matt, tell me what's going on with our referring physician base in Southeast Ohio. We're not getting patients up here. What happened? And so he can run all the models and do all the analytics. So analytics is going to be fundamental. How we manage care, the quality control aspect, especially compliance, making sure the right person got the right drug or the right procedure. So tech is going to be critical, especially as we get ready to roll out this vaccination process. Can you imagine we're going to vaccinate 300 some million people plus billions around the world? Somebody's got to manage that. Somebody's going to manage that process. I think blockchain is going to become really important. That's an area that I want to personally, I will probably be on the sidelines for that. I don't have those skills, but I would probably look to invest because I think blockchain has a lot of, I see Jocelyn's nodding her head up and down. Is that an area of interest that you have?
I did a presentation on blockchain and it was in high school, so it was very minimal because I just didn't quite understand the concept, but I know that it's going to be an important part of technology and communication and networking online.
If you want to differentiate yourself and do something pretty wild, somebody's going to make a ton of money, not just someone, a lot of people. There's a lot of, it better than from what I've read, blockchain is going to be to business enterprise what water is to humans. It's going to become a fundamental part of our life. How long is it going to take before it becomes mainstream? It's not 100 years, and it's probably not one, but probably in the next few years, we're going to really start to see it evolve. Most people don't know this. It's going to play a role in the final decision of who becomes president of the United States. And I'll leave my political comments at that. Just put in your mind blockchain and what the implications are as far as the last election. Very few people know what's at work. Okay, we're coming up on 6, 7, 8 minutes. What do you think? Was this worthwhile?
Thank you.
Yeah, does anybody have maybe one last question for Mark? Like he said, we are coming to the end, but we could probably take one more question. And if not, that's okay too. I don't want to keep everybody staring at the cameras.
I saw you're recording this so people can watch it afterwards, right?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, we are recording this.
Here's what I would offer up. If anyone on this call has a subsequent question or wants to bounce something off of me, make it happen, Randy. I'm happy to do that. And for anybody that didn't partake, but they watch the video, if I can be of any help, I'm happy to do it.
All right. Well, Mark, we appreciate it so much. We know you're super busy, so taking time out of your day to do this,
No problem.
we can't thank you enough for doing that. So yeah, thank you so much for doing this today. We really appreciate it.